In this video, we're going to perform basic configuration on Cisco Expressways to set up mobile and remote access. We're going to assume that your DNS is already properly set up, including the necessary A, pointer, and service records. Additionally, we're assuming that your certificates are already set up, including the proper certificate on each expressway, as well as the trust stores, so your expressways trust each other as well as the internal infrastructure. We're also assuming that, importantly, internal Jabber logins are working perfectly. For more information on any of this, check the MRA deployment guide and the Expressway Certificate Creation and Use deployment guide. Let's start in the Expressway C and go to Configuration Domains. Let's add the SIP domain that's going to be used for MRA. Click New, and type in the domain name, and then click Create Domain. Note that if you have an internal and external domain for your Expressway E and your presence server, you'll need to enter each domain separately. We get an informational message that MRA is not turned on. Click the Mobile and Remote Access link. This brings us to the same page as going to Configuration Unified Communications Configuration. Set the Unified Communications mode to Mobile and Remote Access. Under MRA Access Control, there are 3 modes. We're going to be using UCM LDAP Basic Authentication because we're not setting up SSO. Also make sure that Authorized by User Credential is set to On. Scroll down and hit Save. Now that MRA is enabled, the domains can be set up for MRA. Let's go back to Configuration Domains. Click on View Edit for the domain, and turn off registrations for Expressway, turn on registrations for CUCM, and turn on IAM and Presence. XMPP federation can be set to on or off, depending on whether you're going to be federating with external domains. Going back to Configuration Unified Communications Configuration, you can see that we don't have any other infrastructure set up yet. So click on Configure Unified CM Servers. Click Add, then enter the CUCM via FQDN or IP address. The credentials are an application user with Axel API access. I'm going to leave TLS Verify mode and AES GCM support off. TLS Verify mode just means it's going to check that exactly what you entered as the name is the subject of the CUCM certificate. Click on Add Address to add the CUCM. If you have different CUCM clusters, you should add them all now. Back under Configuration Unified Communications Configuration, let's click on Configure IAM and Presence Servers. The process is almost exactly the same as adding a CUCM. Once you've added your IAM and Presence servers, you can also add your Unity Connection servers in the same way. Note that you may see an error XMPP router is inactive. This is expected because we haven't configured the Unified Communications Traversal Zone yet. Let's move over to the Expressway E now. Go to Configuration, Unified Communications Configuration, and again set the mode to Mobile and Remote Access. And click Save at the bottom. Now let's set up the Unified Communications Traversal Zone under Configuration Zones. Click the New button, name the zone, and under Type select Unified Communications Traversal. For connection credentials, we have to specify a local account in the Expressway E database that's going to be used by the Expressway C to authenticate for the zone. I already set up a user named Traversal. If you don't have a user set up for this, just click the Edit Local Authentication Database link, create a new username and password, and enter the username here. We're going to keep the default port of 7001, and type in the Expressway C's FQDN into the TLS Verify subject name field. The Expressway E is going to verify that exactly what you type here is the subject or a subject alternative name in the Expressway C certificate. Click Save. Now let's go back to the Expressway C and configure the other half of the UC Traversal Zone. Here we're going to repeat the same process. Go to Configuration Zones, create a new zone, make it a UC Traversal Zone, give it a name, and then type in the traversal connection credentials that we set up in the Expressway E local database. My user again is called Traversal. The port number is going to be the same that we have on the Expressway E UC Traversal Zone, so 7001 the default here. Finally, enter the FQDN or the IP address of the Expressway E under Peer 1 address, and then click on Create Zone. After a few seconds, the zone should become active. This is a pretty common point for things to fail. If you get a connection failed error on the Expressway C, you want to ensure that TCP port 7001 is open between the C and the E. You also want to check DNS, so if the Expressway E is using dual NICs, the C should be pointed to the inside address, and if it's single NIC with static NAT, the C should be pointed to the NAT address. And if you get a TLS negotiation failure, you want to check that the certificates both meet the requirements and that the expressways trust each other's root CA certificates. Now that everything is up, we just need to check status. I'm going to check the Unified Communications status from the bottom of the Unified Communications configuration page. Another place to get to this is to go to Status, Unified Communications. Checking this page on the Expressway C is a great way to see if anything is wrong, because it's going to show you both traversal zone problems and if you have any problems connecting to your internal infrastructure. Basically, if you see anything in red on this page, that's something that needs to be addressed. Under View SSH Tunnel Status, you can see that the SSH connection between the Expressway C and E is active. If this is down, that communication happens on TCP port 2222, and you should check that that's open on the firewall. If we go back to the individual CUCM and IMMP configuration pages, we can see that they're active and everything should be working, assuming all other prerequisites such as DNS and firewalls are configured correctly. That's all there is to configuring the expressways for mobile and remote access. I hope this video helps, and thank you for watching.